Now we have children, we have infants, we have them back home to safety, and this is a great progress. But we cannot go on like this. Hamas is going nowhere. And if we continue to negotiate with them, they will continue stretching these negotiations, taking us into a rabbit hole that will never end. And this is their goal, to get away with their crime. And we cannot allow this to happen. There is no other option for us but to stand united, fight together until Hamas is eradicated, for the sake of Israeli children and for the sake of Palestinian children. Now, Israel has thousands of Hamas members in prison, and Israel must use this card. This is the time when Israel needs to use Hamas savages in prison to pressure Hamas leadership everywhere to release the hostages. We have mass murderers in prison, and they have all type of privileges and human rights. Israel cannot continue like this. Prisoners like Ibrahim Hamid, Abdullah al-Barghouthi must be sentenced to death. And Hamas must have a time frame, a month or 2 or 6 months, to return the hostages. And if they don't return the hostages within a time frame, Israel must execute top Hamas leaders in prison, especially the mass murderers. And when I say execute top Hamas leaders, I mean no exception. That includes my own father, the co-founder of Hamas movement. In this war, there are no exceptions. There is no difference between military wing and political wing. They are all partners in the crime. I made a mistake 10 or 15 years ago when I saved his life many times. I was going against evolution. He was supposed to die for his actions. I saved his life, and here we go. Things did not change. Things got worse. Hence, I give the Israeli government the permission to execute all Hamas top leaders in prison before we go after them in Gaza and before we go after them in Qatar. And again, I make myself very clear. No exception for anyone. All those who conspired, planned, validated, justified Hamas genocide must be punished. And if this is what Hamas want, the release of those mass murderers, then in my opinion, this is the head of the snake. And the head of the snake at this moment is not in Qatar and it's not in Gaza. It's in the Israeli prisons. If Israel know how to manage and how to play this card against Hamas, I guarantee you the return of all the hostages and the defeat of Hamas. Then we have Qatar and we have Hamas based in Qatar. We should not consider Qatar as a mediator, as a fair third party, as long as they host Hamas leadership and Hamas operation in Qatar. Up to this point, they functioned as a mediator, and that gave us what we wanted, what we needed, the release of children. And this is a great progress up to this point. But from now on, Qatar should be treated as an enemy state as long as they host Hamas leadership on their soil. Israel must make this very clear to the Qataris and to the rest of the world that as long as Qatar keep Hamas base in Doha, Israel will have the right to go after Hamas leaders on the Qatari soil. Qatar must have a time frame within a month to expel Hamas leaders from Qatar. If they don't obey, Israel is not under any obligation to carry an attack or to carry an assassination on the Qatari soil targeting Hamas criminals.